Hello. Well, it wouldn't be an A&R meeting if it was somebody wasn't late, weren't late, and of course it's me, and you got to take care of your hands while you're in here. Apologize for that, but here we are. Thanks for joining us today. Wait a moment and see who else joins us here. I'm broadcasting live from my own recording studio here in Brooklyn called Great Hair, which my friend Darren DeLessio named after we opened this place because he said, "Oh, that's rad. A lot of great hair is going to come out of there," which I thought was pretty clever. So we stuck with it. See what we're doing here. Discussion. Let's see. I'm going to try to open this up here. I'm not a Facebook guys, people, so I appreciate your patience with me as I'm figuring all of this out. In any case, I hope you're all doing well wherever you are. And let's see here. Questions. Here we go. All right, so if somebody wants to pop a question in there, let's see if this thing's working correctly. Okay. All right, I see a question from Brooklynite here. And okay, how did I get started in A&R? Geez, that's a good question. All of this will be relevant, I promise. I mean, honestly, I just started doing it myself when I was 12 years old with my twin brother, Joel T. I was never in a band. I was a horrible musician. You don't want me in your band, honestly. This is the closest I could ever get to working alongside artists was truthfully signing them, I want to be in your band. I want to write your songs. I want to say what you're saying. I want to have that, power to reach people. If I can't do it myself, then certainly I want to be a part of your team and give you the platform to reach those people. Honestly, just doing it myself, putting out punk rock 7-inch vinyl when I was a kid led to a career in music. So it's pretty amazing that something that I never thought I would do for a living ended up being, my career. So it can be done, and certainly in this day and age, I think it's a lot easier than when I was doing it in the late 80s, early 90s. And certainly digital distribution and the platforms that are available to you are really incredible because you can really reach everyone globally. So let's get through some comments, questions here. This is really a open forum for you guys to talk and ask questions and all right, Kendra, good comment. Safe to say you should hire me. That's great. So I appreciate everybody joining this. So if you have any questions about this, let's get into it. But primarily, I basically just describe myself as a recovering A&R person. I came from, the independent world when I was quite literally a kid. Ended up starting at Columbia Records and Sony Music when I was 20. Wasn't old enough to get into bars yet, but they said, "You'll be 21 soon enough," and I was. Dropped out of college, and the rest is history, and just kept going at it. And honestly, over the last 25 years, I've been really blessed to work with a lot of different artists in different arenas, whether it was a major label or in distribution now. And honestly, after running through that rat maze for so long, I feel blessed to be on the right side of a record deal. This is honestly a much nicer way to work with artists, empower them. An artist owns their masters, and it's an incredible thing to do it yourself and see the results of your hard work. And certainly it does require a team effort, which is honestly where a company like Symphonic comes in. So we support your endeavors. And All right, let's get into this. So this is a good question. Where is our A&R heading now in this climate? Jeez. Honestly, I think it's kind of a free-for-all at the moment, which is fantastic. There's no right or wrong way to say it or do it or record it or produce it or release it. Um, Honestly, it's kind of the wild, wild west in a lot of ways, in the sense that I do believe that all genres can compete equally, especially in distribution. It's really about a great song. It still boils down to having great talent, having a great song, and really connecting with your audience and saying something meaningful. I've always put two things into two categories, whether it was sugar or food. And sugar is, definitely pop music, and not in a bad way. I mean, I have blood on my hands. I worked with Miley Cyrus on Party in the USA, but then later on, it's like you work in the food business, which is obviously things that are very meaningful lyrically and still, cut through. So I think that's, very doable in this day and age, because you're able to reach your audience a lot easier. Um, let's see. Thanks for this question. Tommy, is there a breaking point in streaming numbers that I look for in order to take an artist on more seriously and offer more services? Good question, actually. Um, Jesus, I'm so sorry. Should not have all of my things open while I'm doing this. My apologies. Just close out a few things here. Honestly, that is a very good question. I mean, um, certainly there's the DIY business, of course, which is, everywhere, where you can release your own music and pay a fee, and there's very little services, and it's delivery only, and it's, getting your records out, and the rest is on you. I don't personally look for any qualifier necessarily, Tommy. I just look for something that I personally can get behind. And, truthfully, it's the same. I'm not a volume dealer. I don't think Symphonic's a volume dealer. We've been very choosy in the people that we work with, and that's so the bandwidth remains, uh, doable, and, everyone can get the same amount of service. And so I do believe, though, that there is definitely a need for the slow rise in an artist, over the deployment of, maybe several focus tracks and not just one. Certainly into some kind of meaningful end result, like an EP or an LP, because that's certainly what the DSPs are looking for, is more of a story than just, hey, here's one banging focus track, or single rather. But to your point, no, I mean, there's no qualifier necessarily. I think it's just more about, you notice certain things that require support, that are on the teetering edge of just about to make it. And we talk about these things every single week. So it definitely behooves, anybody working with us, just to, stay on our radar and certainly tell us what you're doing. That way we actually know how to support you properly. Um, so in any case, is there any more questions here? Because I actually like these. The Q&A format is quite kind of easy to do this. Um, but I mean, look, I can banter on a lot, but look, the major thing that I think that most people do realize in this day and age is that, you have to basically make all of your music on your own. Is that record companies are often desirable because there is an A&R person there who might, this is, the word might, take you on the journey that you're looking for, and the right studio, the right producer, the right amplifiers, the right songwriters. Like, who do you want to work with? A lot of that stuff doesn't happen anymore in this day and age, because you're left to do it on your own. And that really sucks, because that's why I have a studio, actually, is that I still work with artists. I still want to develop things and release it to the world in a really meaningful manner. And I feel like independent distribution in this day and age is really the tip of the spear. It's how you can disintermediate the label, which is, 9 times out of 10 the reason that things, don't connect often. And this is no shit talking. This is just, based on my experience and looking in a 25-year rearview mirror. So let's see what else is going on here. What do I look for when I sign artist Symphonic? I mean, honestly, my personal track record over the last 8 months that I've been at this fantastic company is, I've been looking for things that just cut through, that are completely unique, that tell a story, that are still badass that I can really wave a flag at and get behind and just completely support and love. And again, I want to be in your band, and it's not a volume thing. It's not like I need 100 artists to do that. I want 20, if that, so I can actually talk to you, you know. We are human beings. We still have to be able to pick up the phone and talk to our partners, and whether that's the DSPs, whether that's the label, whether that's the artist or the manager. Certainly everybody is important, and this is absolutely a team effort. Also, yes, I wanted to mention this as well, is that the team at Symphonic has been nice enough to make me a public collaborative playlist here. So if you want to click on that, submit any music that you want me to check out that's already released, that's cool. Definitely want to hear it. I mean, that's the hardest part of the job, is making sure that you're on top of everything that's relevant, and that's a combination of having a fantastic network which you build over many years, certainly listening to what's sent to you. I mean, I listen to everything. It may take me a minute to get to it, but I do listen. And it's for me, it's never been a data play. It's just all about, is it an amazing artist? Is it something that we feel like we can support? Do we know how to do it? And if we don't, I mean, look, the fun part is figuring out how to do it. I'm not scared of the challenge. All of this shit is hard. I mean, none of this is easy. Just because you're doing it yourself, it actually makes it, in my opinion, more gratifying. But it's definitely hard work, and it's hard work at any level. So I do encourage you to submit some music if you can. I'd love to check it out. Old releases, whatever you just dropped, anything. Joe Wood, nice dude. Joe Wood actually just released a fantastic project called Elegy. And I just have to give him props because it's incredible. It came out last Wednesday, which is a fantastic, interesting release date, Joe. But fantastic song, so do check that out. Are you approaching TikTok differently considering the recent news of a possible shutdown? I mean, we're absolutely talking about that. I mean, it goes without saying that Instagram has always been waiting in the wings, and there's always competitors and people waiting with their own tech to pick up the pieces where other things fail. This happened. There was a moment when SoundCloud was about to go out of business. Obviously, they were running out of money, and Audio Mac, one of the competitors to SoundCloud, looked like if SoundCloud went down, then certainly Audio Mac would step up and be that piece in the marketplace to fill those shoes. So no, I mean, absolutely, we have to. I mean, it's a constant evolving discussion on even how to approach TikTok because it's such an evolving beast. I think everyone's still learning how to deal with TikTok, how to look into the analytics of it even. If we're talking about digital distribution and analytics and things, I mean, let's be honest, it is very important to get your math straight. A lot of this is absolutely stroking robots and making sure that they're happy and the robots know about your music. But then there's obviously the human element of us actually, delivering a record to somebody who we really give a shit about. So, that's never going to change. But certainly getting your analytics right, getting your math correct, and getting everything in line is important. And I can't ignore TikTok. Nobody can. It's just an incredibly huge platform globally. But certainly the fear of it going away is very real, especially after artists, creators have spent years, if not, building their audience on TikTok, which is a huge platform. And, if that goes away, then I pray that they're able to migrate them all to Instagram Reels or whatever other format becomes equally powerful. So, again, whenever something falls away, there's always something there to take its place. So I think that's just everything that we all have to be looking at as creators and artists and managers, and just, in this industry, we have to be looking at every single platform available to us, including TikTok and others. So I think Instagram's probably going to drop it anyway, and we'll see what happens. Like, it'll be just game on, as long as I think there's an appetite for it, for sure. I mean, there's a lot of people on Instagram already. Will Symphonic get into the world of sync licensing? We actually already are very active in sync licensing. So me being a former music publisher, this was very exciting for me to find out when I was, vetting companies to join. I do A&R and business development here, which is looking for artists, discovering them, and also talking to other companies and media entities about other verticals we can create that are exciting for not only our company but our creator base, our users and our artists and labels. So that's exciting to get to play in all these different verticals. But sync licensing actually already existed here, and our company is called Bodega, which is a fantastic name. I mean, I live in New York City. A bodega is a place you can get everything. So the idea of Bodega is that we represent the master side only on the transaction. So John Mizrachi, who runs our division, is incredible at his job, and it's a very, it's a selective crew of things that we think we can win with, and that's specifically, for the entire sync world, film and TV obviously being the focus, but trailers are obviously huge, video games. I mean, really any platform that takes music is really important. But our deals are very transparent on that side, and we only touch the master side. We're distributors. We're not publishers at the moment. I mean, although we do administrate publishing, and we have a small, growing publishing division out of Nashville. So props to Randall Foster and crew for building that up. But yeah, sync is incredibly important. When it happens, it's a magic trick, guys. It's like Shazam goes out the roof. It's the discovery platform. Not only that, you're making real money that isn't attached to distribution funds. And in our particular deals, you keep 100% of your publishing. So it's not only found money, but it's also money that can really drive your campaign, and it's also the discovery of it alone is incredible. Like Shazam alone is just money in the bank. And I don't mean that necessarily actual cash, even though it would be, but really the intangibleness of the marketing aspects of it alone. So thank you, Walter, for that question. And if you want to, get into that, you can absolutely. I'll tell you more about Bodega. Do you suggest holding off? This is a question from Mark Sampson. Do you suggest holding off from releasing an EP for a new artist for a few months, or can a new artist break through now if the music story is strong? I mean, truthfully, like I would never drop an EP by anybody at once. I just feel like this is obviously just personal opinion. I mean, none of this is like anything other than opinion, and that's what obviously A&R, you have to realize, is I do not have the monopoly on good taste. I really wish I did. Just be Jason Jordan Records and you guys would all be here. But no, it's absolutely about educating not only the marketplace, the consumers of your music, but certainly the DSPs themselves. If they don't know who the artist is, dropping a series of focus tracks is not only a way to really kind of get real momentum, because there's so much you can do around it, whether it's buying advertising, doing PR, especially if the music's fantastic. I mean, look, that's the bottom line, is the music always has to be fantastic. It's, the quality control on distribution is very low in a lot of places, and it's Symphonic. Thankfully, we do quality control to a very high degree. We could put this conversation out tomorrow if we wanted to, but it just adds to the noise out there of all of the records that are being delivered every single day and released on all of the DSPs. So, I think curated distribution, which is what we do, is incredibly important, because, you can't have the DIY business and curated distribution and just feel like you have this massive pipeline of stuff coming out every week. Nothing, you can't have 200 priorities a week. That's just doesn't work that way. If it does, then you might as well just be on a major label, in my opinion. Even though that's actually worse than what the majors do. So in my opinion, Mark, is that you should always release just a series of focus tracks, that lead into an EP release, where those focus tracks exist on the EP itself. Oh, wonderful, Tommy. Thank you. So 2 songs have been added by Veda Black, who are already on Symphonic, but thank you. I'd like everyone to check that out. And bear in mind and Walter has submitted Vacay by Amia. So feel free to add stuff to the Symphonic submissions playlist. This is absolutely something new that I thought of this morning. So, if it's an easier way for us to hear and check out things, maybe we'll keep this going. But I'm really enjoying this. I hope you guys are having fun too. Dubphonic Dubophonic, sorry, I saw the O. Phonic Records regarding the format of the releases. You think it's better in terms of streaming and downloading to release an EP album once or do more single releases? Kind of the same, question that I just answered to Tommy, or was it Walter? I'm sorry, or Mark. Shit, not either of them. Mark. So same deal is that I do feel like the only people waiting for an EP is like you and your mom. So you have to really educate the marketplace that your music's available. And by doing that, it's just consistent deployment of focus tracks. And maybe that's every 4 to 5 weeks, every 4 to 6 weeks, really whatever you have the bandwidth to deal with. And certainly, it can't go without saying that none of this stuff is done in a vacuum. It's certainly important to have a plan, and a deployment plan, a schedule, and bearing in mind that Apple Music requires 6 weeks for pitching, whereas Spotify requires 4. So just you always have to look at best practices on how to release music, and all of those things. I mean, it's like it leads to the culmination of a proper release, and again, there's no right or wrong way to do it, but the one thing that I do shy away from is just dropping an EP unless you're Drake. So unless you're Drake, I wouldn't do it. That's my personal opinion. I'm sorry, Mark. I didn't realize that. Yeah, slow release, of course. Yes, slow release. Exactly what I was just saying. Yeah, I mean, honestly, like so we're talking about licensing, I guess, in retail markets. Like, I do that stuff all the time. I mean, pre-COVID, when I was cruising through different retail outlets and would see, or rather hear a song that I had no idea what the hell it was. I mean, Shazam is like everyone's best friend. So there are a ton of different networks. I think Play Network being one of them. I'm not endorsing any single one of them, but there are different places where you can submit your music. It's a broad license, and your music can be featured in retail outlets, H&M, and so on. And I don't shy away from that. I think there's tremendous value in that. You're not going to make a lot of money, obviously, in the license, but certainly the marketing aspect of it can't go unnoticed, and it's incredibly important. I know I do it, so if I do it, then probably other people do it too, including you. Thanks, Megan. I appreciate it. Just being myself today. Showed up late, like, it's not a true A&R panel if nobody's late. It shouldn't be the host, of course, but it was. But we can do this again. I actually like this, so getting a lot out of it. So as again, there's a Symphonic submissions playlist, which encourage anybody who's on here to submit music. Either, doesn't have to be on Symphonic, of course. Certainly anything, released on other distributors like DistroKid, TuneCore, and so on. That's, something that I should mention is that when I do see an artist that has 500,000 monthly listeners and, steady deployment schedule and has been putting out music for, consistently rather, and is somehow on TuneCore or DistroKid or a place that has absolutely no services other than delivery, that's a client I'm interested in talking to, because look how much they've done on their own with absolutely no help. It might be them and their team, but certainly no help from the distributor. So what would it look like with a little bit of help? Just a little bit. It might amplify your audience tenfold. And if you're already at 500,000 monthly listeners, that really brings it to something really meaningful. So that's kind of just to go swing back to whoever asked that question a little earlier. I didn't properly answer it, but that's honestly what I feel like I can achieve best is when somebody has really been doing it very well on their own, and I can certainly amplify their efforts. That's not me being lazy. I've also signed artists that have absolutely nothing going on, which requires a lot of heavy lifting and being part of their team. But when somebody's able to achieve all of these things on their own, I give them a high five and a hug, and it's like, congratulations, and I'd love to work with you. So, but again, just because I feel like their platform is probably going to be much bigger and they just haven't been discovered by the entire audience that's available to them. So let's see what else we got going on here in the chat. I can just talk for days, guys. Um, to the next level. Oh, I see. I see. Hey, Andrew. Thanks. Hey, I'm doing great. Um, yeah, I understand your question, Tommy. I think it's, more of a getting to getting to us. I mean, honestly, I'm happy to check your artist out. There is no method to how we necessarily identify an artist and go, that, let's like focus on that. Everyone, this is a blood sport. I mean, you should see our meetings where we're talking about, our artists. I mean, everyone's very, very, very passionate at this company. So please, feel free to shine a light on it with me. I think you added it to the playlist, so I'll definitely going to be listening to the playlist after this session here. So, but yeah, I mean, honestly, when things are already performing well, it's very easy for us to get behind it. We have no DIY model, to clarify. It's very, this is invite only. We certainly reach out to people and do deals. People do apply for Symphonic on our website every day, and in order to make sure that we're providing services to people in the best of our ability, we listen to it, we vet it, we want to make sure that we're working with things. It doesn't mean your music sucks if we choose not to work with you. It just means that we either have something that is already occupying that lane that you certainly don't want to be, third place runner up at any company for, something that already exists. But there's a lot of room in genres. I think every artist is an absolute snowflake. So, I wouldn't be discouraged if you're submitting music and you're denied, but it's only just because we're making sure that we have the right music to work with. When I joined this company, the focus for me primarily was on diversifying the catalog even more. And I'm musically schizophrenic. I think most, good A&R people are. I like everything as long as it's telling a story and it has a pulse and a heartbeat and something really meaningful. That's the thing I want to work with. So, again, I've signed things that had very little going on in the beginning, whether that an artist like Genevieve Stokes, for instance, who's incredible, and I really encourage you to check her out. And that's not just a plug because I work with her. That's a plug because, her and her team and the team here at Symphonic were able to really marry her music properly with a really fantastic marketing plan, and it just connected. And great music does connect. It still matters. It still rises to the top. And then there's the pass along where people are talking about this artist and they're organically sharing it, and you can't manufacture that shit. That's stuff that happens because it's genuine. And so I wish that were the case for everyone, but it's not. But that's a perfect example of somebody I signed that had really very little going on. And then I'm also working with artists like Schoolie D and things that are super relevant. I signed Ida Maria, who's an incredible Norwegian pop artist. She's releasing a new album, our new EP with us shortly, and there's a lot of exciting new things coming out. We signed Mac 10 recently, so he has a record coming out called Celebration with E40, and DJ Mustard produced it, and it's totally different for Mac 10, but I mean, this is the kind of stuff that I'd like to mess with everything across the spectrum. It's not just hip hop, it's not just indie rock, it's not just bedroom pop. It's like anything that has a pulse that is real, I think is a really good example. So, yo, Keith, got some people in here. Rick's here, John Forbes. Okay, let's ask this. How much ramp up time prior to a release? I mean, honestly, 6 weeks, I think, is a good. I mean, you can never have enough time, truthfully. I mean, shit, Runway is your best friend. But, what I always encourage an artist or a label is have your gun loaded. Don't just have one badass focus track and video and then, like, birds chirping. Like you really have to have four, three, four bullets in your gun, ready to shoot, so to speak. And I hate that, analogy. I'm sorry, or metaphor rather. Um, but you definitely have to have records ready to deploy and assets ready to deploy. So, whether that's advertising pieces for Instagram, whether that's a video for YouTube and other platforms, all of that stuff is important because, bear in mind, when I first encountered YouTube in my music industry experience, YouTube was looked at as a marketing platform, like check out my video and then buy my record. This is very antiquated, of course, but YouTube itself is the biggest DSP in the world. That's how pretty much the rest of the world listens to music. They're not, Latin Americans in South America are often not fucking with Apple Music or Spotify as their primary discovery platform. They're listening and watching YouTube. And your asset that once became a marketing piece to push your song is now able to actually make you money and be an asset that is monetizable. So it can't go without saying that you have to basically attack the whole ecosystem. It's not just two DSPs, and people put such an emphasis on Spotify. I love Spotify, don't get me wrong, but there's a lot of other places to choose your music, and there's a lot of other places that are also supportive of new artists. And it's incredible to take advantage of that stuff because there's a lot of bandwidth issues at Spotify, and that's because they're the number one destination for retail, as well as Apple Music. So, but do not discount YouTube, and certainly videos are absolutely important, not just for the marketing aspect, but certainly for the totality of your project and telling the story. So, but 6 weeks I think is a good ramp up time if you are going to put a record out. And then subsequently, if you're going to do, slow releases, have those songs ready to go in the system, whatever distributor you're working with, hopefully it's Symphonic, have those records ready to go, meaning approved, you have a release date set, the one record's already being released while the next record's being set up, and blah, 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 blah. It might even help to make a wall calendar. I do it. I have a big whiteboard, and it says the rabbit hole on the top, which is like Beautiful Mind crap, like get crazy at night and go deep on the whiteboard. But making a calendar, I think, is incredibly important, just so you know what the hell you're putting out, when it's coming out, what assets you need to gather around it, and how you're going to put it out, how you're going to deploy it. Like, not every single record is released the same way. If it was, it would be boring as hell. That's the exciting part, again, is not only making the record, but how do you put it out? All the fun shit that we can do that's available to you these days is like stuff that was never available back in the day. And I'm not lamenting anything. I'm super stoked on where we are right now. Very future thinking human being. So thank you for being here. Oh, dude, Andrew, thanks for saying that. Yeah, Genevieve is quite special. What studio are you at? Looks cool. Well, weirdly enough, it's my studio, and it's called Great Hair. As I've already mentioned, some of you guys joined earlier. My buddy Darren, when I opened this place, it's not a profit center at all. It's just a place to make music and get weird. There isn't a lot of development in the music business anymore. So I actually choose artists that I like to work with and say, come on in here. Let's, make music together. I'm not a musician. I know what I like to hear. And so it's nice to have a place to incubate, essentially. And then those records often end up being symphonic records. So I'm very pleased to see the process through from start to finish. It's very satisfying, I guess is the word that I'm looking for. Given that most bands or small labels don't have traditional A&R process, what components of old school A&R can be applied to the way recordings are made now and artists are developed? Honestly, that's what I was just talking about, is that, I still get that intangible feeling that data doesn't support. There's artists that walk in here, when that happened, of course, it's not happening right now, but that would walk in here and you just get that, your hair on the back of your neck stands up. They've never released a song before, but you already know that it's lightning in a bottle. It's just it's it's just something. It's a sixth sense. It's almost something that's you learn over just years and years of being around artists and working with artists, and that it's gonna be something that you're gonna want to be involved in. But truthfully, the best decisions are on how to make records, on how to actually make the recordings. And, if you're not able to do that on your own, certainly implement strategy where you're collaborating with other producers, you're collaborating with other writers. I mean, many hands that make light work, and it also it truly amplifies the creative process. I think collaboration is key to winning, and certainly collaborating on releases as well. I mean, when people who are streaming incredibly well collaborate with an unknown, that unknown certainly becomes known. You know, it's almost the Jason Jordan X, The Weekend, coming soon, by the way. I'm totally joking, I wish, but that would be pretty badass. I would be the unknown artist who suddenly becomes known because The Weekend is the shit and huge. So he would carry me. So that collaborative process, I think, is incredibly important in this day and age. As far as old school A&Rs, just make great records, develop properly, know who you are before you release music. I mean, that's important too, is that, you don't want to have an identity crisis. Some people put out records and then later on they're like, yeah, I shouldn't have released that record. It was embarrassing. I mean, you can take it down if it's not doing well anyway, but you don't have to show people your growing pains. I like SoundCloud for that reason, is that you can put records up on SoundCloud that are, essentially demos, and your friends can check them out. I mean, I sift through SoundCloud all the time for that reason. You never know what you're going to find. But I don't encourage people to like put their first demo out, to distribution. It's just develop a little bit outside the ecosystem and come in strong with something to say, with an identity, with your assets, your music obviously recorded, a strong story. All of that shit matters. I mean, it mattered 25 years ago. It still matters today. So thanks for that question. Let's see, and I'm getting gifts. It's an amazing concept. All right, so once again, thank you, Symphonic Distribution, for pinning this collaborative Spotify playlist that I came up with this morning while I was showering, in an effort to let you guys choose, throw some music at us. Certainly at me, I'm definitely going to listen to it. We might even keep it open for a little while. I have no strategy for it whatsoever, other than I want to check out your music. So put anything on there that is of interest to you, and I'll check it out. So I appreciate that. We're 46 minutes into this, excluding the 5 minutes that I was late for. I would love to answer any other questions that you guys might have. I've committed an entire hour to this, or longer if you want. I have enough Diet Coke to keep going, so we're good. Anybody got anything to ask? Otherwise, I'm just gonna, pontificate a little bit more, and certainly encourage you to apply for our distribution services, which you can find at simdistro.com. Obviously, everything that we do is on there, as an FAQ, or certainly people ask me to send them decks, and I'm like, it's all on the website. It's a full color representation of what we're talking about right now. So just to sort of also go back to like being a recovering A&R person, and this is just a story that I think is probably important for everybody who's an artist listening to this, is that, I came from the major label world. I came from being a punk rock kid, and then, at 20 years old, getting my first corporate card and a business card, and being a real A&R person. And I was lucky to survive in the Shark Tank for 25 years, but, my last job in the record business, and I'm happy to be where I am right now. And this is no diss to any label at all, and I won't even mention it. Is that I'd have meetings with artists that would have upwards of 25 million streams combined, or sometimes even 100 million streams, and they would be in my office convinced that they need a record deal. I need a record deal. I need a record deal. I need a record deal. Of course, I already knew who they were. Probably already checked their music out. Every major label has a research department. So it's almost becomes very transactional. It's not very much about the music at all. Um, so anyway, I would meet with an artist that would say, I need a record deal. And I'd say, okay, you have 100 million streams, you're making real money. You definitely do not need a record deal. Because the truth is that the thing that probably made you work, the thing that probably made you special and great, made you connect was releasing music when you wanted to and releasing music that you wanted to release. And being put on a schedule and being told when you're going to release your music is one of the worst feelings you can ever feel. And again, I feel it vicariously through the artists because they bitch at me and complain and tell me that, this is not the deal that they signed. And of course, you can actually have everything written out, committed to and everything, and it still doesn't mean anything. So this is just some pitfalls that I've been very honest about, and honestly, that led me to distribution because there's nothing that I feel like I cannot achieve as an A&R person and a creative with distribution that I was not able to do with a major label, excluding radio, of course. And that, there are very few artists that require radio, in my opinion. I signed an artist named 2 Feet when I was at Republic Records. If you haven't checked 2 Feet out, please do check them out. It's like 1, 2 feet, like feet. Anyway, he was just bubbling on SoundCloud, and it was one of those things that musically turned me on in such a huge way that I had to sign it. And we didn't even go to radio until he had 500 million streams because it was just so fucking undeniable. If K Rock didn't play it, it's like, what, are you sleeping? This kid has a half a billion streams. So, a lot of that is just making sure that, it's at a level. And certainly radio helped him, but it didn't break him. And certainly defining breaking is also very important because I would also have these very vague meetings with artists that would say, I want to blow up. And I'm like, that's cool, let's blow up. I'm down to blow up. What's blowing up? Let's define blowing up because, if you're blowing up is 100 million streams, that's cool, let's do it. If you're blowing up is, Instagram and getting verified, then let's figure it out. But everyone's goals are different. I mean, every deal is different, every artist is a snowflake, all music's different. I mean, it's incredible at the moment to be in this time and place where artists actually are the power brokers. I mean, you guys actually have the power to make the deals that you want, demand the deals that you want and deserve, especially if you, are being sniffed around by a major label and you have that kind of, arsenal of information and data and they're hitting you up anyway, you're in the driver's seat. One thing that I've also encouraged people to do is when they do graduate to a major label, if that's what they're looking to do, is keep their independent catalog independent. And this is why, is that you're going to be making a check every month on your independent catalog and you're going to be recouping a major label deal in perpetuity. So it's almost like, an annuity that you can count on while you're still paying your mortgage off. So again, I feel like there's nothing that we can't achieve in distribution that I wasn't able to achieve in a major. Resources are obviously incredibly important, and resources being not only the bandwidth of the company to market, promote, and support you, and by promote I mean at the DSP level, because we don't do radio. But certainly having your own team is incredibly important, not just being alone as an artist, but having a proper manager if you feel comfortable with that. But again, I think artists are so savvy these days that I'm not against dealing with an artist that manages themselves. I think that's cool. Like, the more grassroots we can be and the more hands-on we can be as creators, that's incredible, The only pressure we have is on ourselves to succeed at that point. And we can't blame anyone for, anything not connecting or whatever it is, because everyone's trying very, very, very hard, and none of this, as I said, is easy. And it's, as I said, hand-to-hand combat against other artists, other distributors, and other labels, and it's incredibly important to make sure that just everything's superlative, from the music to the artwork to your marketing assets, and just how you put your music out, I think is just incredible, incredibly flexible. So I want to talk more, but I want to answer some questions. Oh, Love 2 Feet discovered him on Alt Nation. See, Tommy discovered him on the radio, and that's cool as fuck, but we definitely had no radio plan at that point. Um, oh God, man, I missed all these questions. I'm sorry. Am I on Instagram and Twitter? I definitely am. I should type this because nobody will actually get it. My IG and Twitter, if you guys really care, but it's entertaining. I put a lot of funny shit on there when I can. It's angularism, which is a strange word, but it's also kind of just how I've been thinking my entire life. I don't know if you can see it in the comments. Yeah, my IG and Twitter is angularism. I actually managed to type that myself. Any particular records you've had a hand in that have had a lasting emotional impact on you? Certainly all the punk rock stuff that I did when I was a kid. I mean, shit, that stuff's collectible, and I don't even really have copies of it myself. I might have a test press of one or two of my records, but I sold a lot of it. I mean, they basically just everybody. It was incredibly humbling to work with artists like Lincoln from Morgantown, West Virginia, that I haven't even digitally released yet. So you probably would have to YouTube that one. But I mean, that band was the quintessential punk rock hardcore band from that mattered, stood for something. Again, I sold a couple thousand 7 inches of them. This is very pre-digital, and this is like in the early 90s. As far as major label records, I mean, Breaking Benjamin, I think, it's a little bit watered down at the moment, but when I had discovered them, I mean, they were incredibly relevant. They were sort of an amalgamation of every single band that I had liked in, grunge or new metal or whatever the hell it was. And I've told this story before, but, I went out to Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania, which is like the Scranton area, which is a couple hours from New York City, and saw them play on like a Friday night in a shithole, and they were playing Deftones covers and Nirvana covers, and occasionally slipping in an original, and the originals were just devastatingly good. And so, fast forward a week later, every major label knows about it by then. I've already given them an offer, and I was fortunate that I did sign them, and we made subsequently 5 albums together, and all of them were achievements to me. And then, I left Disney in 2012 to move over into the publishing world, which was incredibly exciting. So I got to be the managing director and president of Amalgam Music Publishing, which was very exciting because publishing is also one of those, gray areas that artists and songwriters often don't know about. But it's a very dynamic landscape. Dynamic landscape is how I should say it. Changes every day. If that's something that you're interested in, and it should be as a songwriter or creator, make sure that you have some kind of PRO affiliation, whether it's ASCAP or BMI or even CSAC. You have choices in America where most countries don't. They provide like one government regulated PRO, performing rights organization. But getting your songs registered is incredibly important. Just from a copyright standpoint, and a creator standpoint, make sure your ass is covered. And I mean, look, it's all, again, making sure that all your partnerships are tied are cohesive, I think, is really the word that I was looking for. So anyway, so Breaking Benjamin, I think, is probably the band that lasted the longest with me, but I haven't listened to any of their new albums. Like, since I stopped working with them, I couldn't do it anymore. But there's plenty of new artists out there, and I listen to plenty of music. I mean, geez, I have to sometimes turn off my brain sometimes because there's too much music coming in. Let's see. All right, I'm approaching the 1 hour mark here, and I think that's probably the limit that we're going to go here. If anybody has any one question or two questions, I'm happy to answer a few more. Happy to do this again if you have an interest in, having some kind of ongoing discussion about A&R, and I don't think that's impossible. We're all sort of in the same state that we're living in front of our computers, and I'm happy to chat. But do take advantage of the playlist, and please, submit your friends' music, your, anything that you wanted me to check out. I'm definitely eager to check it out. I'm definitely eager to listen to some new music. So with that, I just want to thank everyone for this opportunity and for tuning in, and see people coming and going, and It's been exciting to talk to all of you, and thanks for the really great questions. I mean, I feel like I didn't miss anything. I hope I didn't. Um, and yes, I am based in New York City, but I'm between New York City and Los Angeles. But I haven't been to LA in 4 months for obvious reasons. Um, Favorite records of the moment. Oh, geez. That's crazy. I mean, you can't ask me that. Like, there's just too many. Um, but I guess, honestly, I've been kind of on a Genevieve Stokes tear, so I absolutely, encourage you guys to check her out, of course. Um, and again, thank you everyone for joining me today, and definitely, if you can, check me out on Instagram and Twitter, Angularism. Certainly submit some songs to our playlist, and join us next time, and hopefully we'll do this again. Spread the word. Much love from New York City, much love from Brooklyn. Symphonic. Wait, where the hell is it? How the hell did that happen? See, I'm like in double vision here. Anyway, so thanks a lot. Have a beautiful day, guys. Cheers.